Welcome to another old fart adventure. This one's taking place inside as the weather outside is frightful. I was asked to do a short video on more of my setup on how I rig things and what I'm using, so I thought I'd take a few moments to do that. The first I'll start with is my pole. The one I have currently with me anyway is a Abu Garcia. I don't know if you can see the stuff on that. It's 8'6" medium rod. And really any medium rod would do, medium to medium heavy. For this technique, it's not a finesse fishery, so you don't need any super high action or anything crazy. If you have those rods, by all means go ahead and use them, but you just want something with a little backbone in case you catch into a bigger fish. I have just a standard Abu Garcia reel. I think it's a Cowlitz 50, nothing special, and it's spooled with a 65-pound braid. And that's typically what I put on all my poles that I'm fishing for salmon or steelhead, even sturgeon for the most part. That seems to do pretty well, and I'm able to tie it and hold it on and do everything like it's supposed to. So that way I can either use it on my boat or on the bank. Either one is going to be fine. So that goes down to the business end of things, and that's this setup here. And so this side here is going to my pole. This side here is going to my lure eventually. And as you can see, whoops, I lost my bead here. Oh, it's killing me. I have a bead. And in this case, it's just a snap swivel for a sliding weight dropper, and another bead into a bead chain and a duo lock. And this is just a simple setup here with that dropper. You can do a more commercial version of a dropper. I just happened to have this handy when I rigged this up, so I did it that way. You'll notice this bead on the up-hand side is a little bit bigger. And there's a reason for that, and that's when I drop down a lure, and I'll kind of discuss that a little bit more. That's your basic setup right there. What you do is you hook a small dropper with a lead to any kind of a snap lock swivel. And I don't know if you can see that right there. I tie a knot in the middle of my line. And the reason I do that is I was used to using like 10-pound mono. But what I found was that anytime it was rubbing over the rocks, it would get abraded pretty quickly, and I was losing a lot of lead. So I went with a 20-pound braid or a 20-pound mono, and I just basically tie an overhand knot in it to weaken it up. So, it acts like 10-pound, but it has a lot more abrasion resistance, and I find that it lasts quite a bit longer, and I don't lose as much stuff. So basically, you just hook that to the dropper. So now your setup looks like this with a little bit of a weight. So, and that's, like a 6-inch drop or something like that. And then to your main line, basically your duo snap, you just hook in your spin glow. And in this case, that's a size 2 spin glow. And I'll show you some sizing here to give you an idea. I usually use a size 4. But in this case, it's just hooked up that way. So I basically tie 2 hooks to that. This one is a size 1, and I call it a stinger hook here. And then the main one that I use with the bait loop is a size 1/0. And then just kind of a random number of beads to make it look good. And basically it just kind of holds your bait a little further back away from your spin glow so it doesn't interfere with the action of the spin glow. And then that's on about an 18 to 20-inch leader, tied up to another snap lock swivel here. And I tend to like these with the hook on them in case you hook into a big one. I don't know if you can see that. As opposed to a straight line one, which I use on my lead, because it doesn't have as much forces. These hold up pretty well. I've never had one of these come apart yet. So basically you just hook that to your main line duo lock. And that's the easiest setup right there. That'll get you going right off the bank. You cast that out into a good seam and hope for the best. For this next setup, it's going to be just kind of a little bit of a variation. Same exact mainline setup, you don't change anything. In this case, you simply don't use the sliding dropper issue here. That's not going to be coming into play. So on your main line, you would just hook In this case, it's just a leader, and it's about 22 inches long, and it goes down to a 3-way swivel. Then you hook that directly to your main line. In this case, it's already got the weight attached to the bottom of the 3-way. If you can see that, I can't tell, but then you just hook your spin and glow to that outgoing one there. And in this case, you have to use a single hook spin glow. And the reason for that is you're going to be, I won't bother to hook it up, but you use a single point hook. And the reason for that is once you cast this out and you get it set where you want it, then you're going to slide down a lure like this guy here. And we're only allowed to have 3 hooks per setup. And so I suppose I could take one off this and put 2 on the spin glow, but I just leave these like they are. And so this has just got a little dual lock swivel, 20-pound mono to a swivel up here. And again, you can see it's the hook kind, so that it holds up better. And you basically just clip that over your main line. Once you're fishing and your weight's out there set and your spin glow's working, then you just slide this down the line. One of the techniques I tend to use is I'll cast slightly downstream rather than straight out. A lot of times I'll do that when I'm just using spin glows. I'll cast this slightly downstream, and then when I put this on the main line, I'll actually walk upstream a little bit to get me a good angle on that line. Because if you put it straight out, sometimes you get a little belly in the line, and this only slides down to that, and it doesn't get all the way down to the bead. And that's why you have to have this big bead here on this one, because essentially that's what's stopping this. So when this slides down the line, get on there, you little devil. So as that slides down the line, that's where it hooks onto and stops. So you need a big enough bead there to stop whatever swivel or swivel you're using here. So if you've got a big open mouth swivel, you might want to downsize it to something that's a little smaller, because basically if you catch a fish on that, that's the setup that's actually keeping it together. So you want to make sure you got a good bead there and it's big enough that this won't slide through it. And that's the second setup. So that's just how you slide something down, and I do that quite often. It gives you a little more option and a little more opportunity than just a single spin glow down there. But like that last one, that's what I caught it on, was this flatfish wobbler looking thing. So that's another technique you can use, and you don't have to change anything on your main line. You just adjust the stuff down from that swivel. The last setup I'm going to show you is really the trickiest as far as casting it goes, because if you don't really pay attention to how it lands, if it all piles into the river at the same time, it ends up getting twisted all to rats, you know what, and so it's something I use it a lot, and you can certainly do that, but just be warned that you really want to practice laying it out so that everything lands kind of separate on the river. Because if you don't, you'll just end up getting everything tangled and you won't be fishing for however long you leave it sit there. Again, same thing, mainline setup doesn't change at all, right down to the swivel. And in this instance, so everything from here down is exactly what it was for dropping down a plug. The only thing I do is I add this spreader bar here, spreader rigging, hook that onto your main line, and then you hook a spin glow to this one on the top. And you just want to make sure that spin glow leader length is shorter than this, so that it doesn't come down and get into here and tangle around this one. And then on this one, just like before, you just hook your spin glow onto that extra eye of the 3-way. You just fish 2 spin glows. Now, in this instance, this is where you have to, be paying attention to which spin glow you grab. Because one has to be a single hook and the other one can be a double. So you don't want to go over having 4 hooks down there. If you ever get stopped, you'll get a talking to, I'm sure, as a minimum. So always be mindful of that. Make sure the spin glows you make or you grab each have the right amount of hooks. I'm very intentional if I hook this rig up that I grab one with a single hook and then one with a double. And I've had to get to the point where I've tied a bunch of double hooks on them and then I want to send this out and I don't have any pre-ties, so I just cut the bottom hook off. It doesn't change anything. The knot's the same on both hooks, so you don't lose any issues there. You just cut that hook off and clean it up, reuse it on another setup down the road. So that's it. That's the 3 ways that I set up generally to go plunking on the Cowlitz. Or anywhere else actually. The difference is if I'm plunking on the Columbia, I'll tend to use bigger spin glows. I'll get down to a 2 or a 0 and slightly bigger hooks just because it's usually deeper water. Where I'm fishing on the Cowlitz, it might be 6 feet. I don't think it's 8. But it's probably right around 5 or 6 feet where my stuff is. So it's not very deep at all. That's why I tend to downsize, and I'll show you the kind of the difference of the spin glows, just so you can get a feel for it. This big old fatty here is a size 0, and then this is a size 2. So you can kind of see they start to shrink down. And then this is a size 4, and that's typically what I'll use if the water is fairly clear on the Cowlitz, is between these 2 guys here. And then they get down farther. Then you get down to, that's a 4 and that's a 6. So you can see they're getting quite a bit smaller. And then an 8, which gets smaller. And I think they go down to a size 10, which I'm assuming is for trout or some other setup, you know, just some sort of an attractor on some other rig, maybe when you're going after walleye or something. But for salmon and steelhead, I stick with the 4s, 2s, and 0s. One thing I thought was interesting is after my stepfather passed away, I got his tackle box and all his gear. And, you know, when we buy spin glows now, this is what they look like, right? Well, different colors, obviously, but this is the shape and the texture and everything. I pulled a bunch of stuff out of his old tackle box, and as you can tell, they're slightly different. They're a little longer and a little slender, a little more slender. And they also come pre-rigged with a treble hook. And this is how I remember fishing back in the early 80s. That was how you bought your spin glows. I don't remember ever finding them like this. I don't know that I would have even known how to hook them up. Basically, you just bought whatever color you wanted like this. And back when I fished, when I was in high school and junior high, I wouldn't say I fished well. I would spend days and days and days and days and days on the river. And when it was all said and done, after probably 2 years of fishing, I caught 1 steelhead. But back then I didn't know anything about, you know, the water seams and where fish travel. In my mind, they went up the deepest part of the river. So the technique that I remember using was throw a 12-ounce weight on that sucker. And we didn't have droppers back then, or I didn't have a dropper. I hooked it straight on to the line, hooked a spin glow off that with a 24-inch leader and whipped it out as far as I could. You know, and then it's probably why I didn't catch any fish. And the one was an accident, I'm sure. But that was, I thought it was interesting that they've kind of changed the shape and the design. And I know these are from the 80s because the last punch card that my stepfather had, I don't know if you can read that, is 1986. So that was the last time he was fishing with this gear. So this was back in my day, back in the early 80s when I was fishing. That's what it looked like. All right, good luck out there, tight lines, and let me know in the comments if there's anything else you'd like to know or how you like to fish, how your setups are. I'm always willing to learn new techniques, and you know, sometimes when I don't have a good hookup ratio, I'll start changing stuff out, changing hook sizes and configurations just to do a little better hookup. And like I said, I'm always willing to learn. So if you've got other techniques, please share them in the comments. And you know, unless you want to keep it to yourself, which I completely understand. All right, take care, guys.